My wife, 30 years old, and I, 42 years old, have 2 children, a 15-year-old boy and a 2-year-old girl. I met my wife when she was a student in a trades program that I used to teach at. She was 20 years old and working extremely hard to support herself and her son. I helped her with her studies, and when she left school, I wished her well. She returned for her 2nd and then 3rd year of instruction. I literally watched her go from someone who was just barely an adult to a truly competent tradesperson. I helped her get a job with a company that trusts me to give recommendations for employees that have a promising future. She came back to see me when she got her white hat. That means she was given a foreman position. She came by to thank me for the help. I told her that she did everything herself, and all I did was point her in the right direction. We went for coffee, though. Then a couple of lunches, then dinner, and so on. We got married about a year later. About 2 years after that, our daughter was born. She went back to work, and I took a job with a company as quality control. I know that is a lot of backstory, but it is relevant. My ex-wife is my mom and dad's favorite person. They like her more than they like me, even after she divorced me because I stuck with teaching instead of making a lot of money in the field. I have seen hundreds of relationships fall apart in my trade because the guy is never home. I am the only guy I know in the trades whose wife left him because he was home too much. She divorced me 3 years before I met my wife, but my parents still invite her for family stuff. She ended up marrying a teacher like herself, and they seem happy. Maybe it was just me she did not want around. We had no kids together. So my dad retired from his important job, and my mom had a big party for him. When she invited me, she said it would be boring and that I did not need to bring my son. She has known him since he was 10 years old, and it still bothers her that he is not biologically mine. I asked if my nieces and nephews were coming, and she said yes. I asked if my daughter was invited, and she said yes. I said I would talk to my wife about it and let her know. I did not bother. Anywhere my kid is not welcome, I am not going to go. I took my family to Legoland that weekend instead. My son loves Lego, and my daughter loves the bright colors. My mom was upset that we didn't go. She told everyone that I chose to spoil my kids instead of celebrating my father with family. I told my brother, sisters, and my dad that she tried to get me to not bring my son. They all got angry with her. Now she is crying because everyone is mad at her for excluding my son and causing me to skip my dad's party. I would have kept my mouth shut if she had kept my name out of her mouth. All of my family, including my dad, have accepted my son into the family. My mom is the only one that has a problem with me adopting him. She is still mad that I did not make it work with my ex. The reason I did not just show up with my entire family or tell everyone ahead of time why I would not be there is because I did not want a scene at my dad's party. I would rather be the inconsiderate jerk that goes on vacation than ruin a family event. And I did not want to expose my son to my mom and her passive-aggressive behavior. She thinks that I was mean for exposing her. I just wanted a nice, stress-free weekend with my family. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Your mom is a difficult person. It sounds like everyone in the family understands her true colors. When they heard the truth about why you weren't there, they took your side. All this happened because she didn't want your son, who is not biologically related to her, to join the party. You handled this situation beautifully. You could have told your siblings what she asked of you, yet you didn't. You stood by your immediate family, which is the right thing to do. Family. Can't live with them. Can't live without them. Comment 2. Not the idiot. If she felt her reasoning for excluding your son was reasonable and justified, then what is the problem with telling the other members of the family? She's upset because she knows she was in the wrong and got caught. You did the right thing. I, too, would have preferred to go to Legoland than be in an uncomfortable family situation where you don't feel welcome. Now, for the update. Hey everyone! Thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. It's been a wild few days since then, and I've got some updates to share with you. So after the whole fiasco with my mom trying to exclude my son from my dad's retirement party, things got pretty tense in the family. My siblings and dad were all pretty upset with her, and she was crying about everyone being mad at her. I thought maybe she'd finally realize how unfair she was being, but boy was I wrong. The day after the party, my mom showed up at our house unannounced. She started going off on me, saying how I embarrassed her in front of the whole family and ruined my dad's special day. I tried to stay calm and explain that I wasn't trying to cause drama. but she just wouldn't listen. She kept saying how I should have just left my son at home and come to the party like she asked. That's when my wife stepped in. She told my mom in no uncertain terms that our son is part of the family, and if she can't accept that, then she's the one with the problem. My mom got all huffy and stormed out, but not before saying some really hurtful things about my wife and how she's turned me against my own mother. The next day, my dad came over to talk to me. He apologized for my mom's behavior and said he had no idea she'd tried to exclude my son from the party. He told me he loves all his grandkids equally and that he's proud of the family I've built. It meant a lot to hear that from him, especially since he's usually pretty quiet about his feelings. But here's where things really took a turn. Later that day, my ex-wife called me out of the blue. She said she'd heard about what happened with my mom and wanted to apologize for any role she might have played in my mom's attitude towards my son. I was pretty shocked, to be honest. My ex and I have been on decent terms since the divorce, but we don't really talk much beyond coordinating schedules for my son. She told me that when we were married, she used to complain to my mom about feeling neglected because I was always working. She said she realizes now that she was just young and immature, and that she never should have put those ideas in my mom's head. She said she's really happy for me and my wife, and that she hopes we can all be one big, happy family for our kids' sake. I have to admit, that conversation really threw me for a loop. It made me realize that maybe my mom's issues with my wife and son run deeper than I thought. It's like she's still holding on to this idea of who I was supposed to be with, even though that ship sailed a long time ago. I talked it over with my wife, and we decided it's time to set some clear boundaries with my mom. We're not going to let her treat our son differently or disrespect our marriage. If she can't get on board with that, then we'll have to limit our contact with her. It's not what I want, but I have to put my own family first. In the meantime, we're focusing on the positive. My dad's been coming over more often to spend time with the kids, and my siblings have been really supportive. We're planning a big family vacation this summer, and everyone's invited, even my ex-wife and her husband. It feels like we're finally starting to heal and move forward as a family. So that's where things are at right now. It's been a crazy few days, but I'm hopeful that we'll come out of this stronger than ever. Thanks again for all the love and support. It really means a lot. Ida, for refusing to pause my future to babysit my sister's kids while she takes time off. I'm an 18-year-old female, and I have an older sister, 29, who has 2 children, ages 8 and 4. Most of my childhood was spent taking care of her children while she went out to parties and such. Now that I'm going off to do a course in practical nursing to boost my resume for university, she's asking me to put my future on hold and look after her children so she can enjoy herself before I leave for university. The thing is, my mom warned me when I was young not to babysit or look after her children because of her attitude. I didn't listen. She also said this might be my sister being jealous because she used to go to nursing school but made friends with the wrong group. In the end, she didn't pass her final exam, so she dropped out of school. So everything came to a head yesterday because applications for the course started yesterday. When I was talking to our mom about it, my sister heard that I applied. She got upset and started shouting about how selfish I am and how this is the only thing she's ever asked me to do. Like I didn't spend my whole childhood from age 11 to now looking after and taking care of her children. I told her to stop being childish and that it isn't my fault she had children and I'm not their mother. The children call me Mom. They did for about 2 years. Even when corrected, they still call me Mom. Apparently, I should have said this sooner. She started yelling at our mom, saying I'm her favorite because if I wasn't, she would tell me to put my future aside and help her with her children. Our mom told her point blank that she would never tell any of us to put our future on hold. She said she gave us all the same opportunity, and it's not anyone's fault she didn't use hers wisely. Now she has children, and I'm going to take my life more seriously. She needs to take responsibility for her children because no one told her to have them, and she can't look after them. She started crying and left. Then my mom started yelling at me, saying she warned me from the very beginning, and I didn't listen. She said I need to stop being a pushover because I lost my whole childhood when I was supposed to be outside playing with friends, going out, and just being a kid. I was babysitting like I gave birth. She said it's my fault my sister became so entitled because when she made plans for me to go out, I would cancel to watch the children. She's not wrong. I would always feel sorry for my sister because she knew how to manipulate me just because I don't like to see people suffer or be sad. Sorry for the long post. I just want to know if I'm the jerk for not putting my future on hold. You can find the update on my profile. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Stop providing her with free childcare. She needs to pay you or find alternative childcare resources. Alternatively, you can ignore the advice above if any of that puts a stop to plans for your future. You are allowed to put yourself first and let your sister manage her own family. Comment 2. Not the idiot. The answer is no. Tell her if she leaves them with you, you will call the police for child abandonment. Each and every time the answer is no. ETA. It's your mom's fault for not saying no for you. You were a minor who shouldn't have been put in that position, edit word, to begin with. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a week since my last post, and a lot has happened. First off, I want to thank you all for your support and advice. It really means a lot to me. So after the big argument with my sister and mom, things got pretty tense at home. My sister refused to speak to me or even look at me. She would just grab her kids and leave whenever I entered the room. It was awkward and uncomfortable, but I tried my best to focus on my nursing course application and not let it get to me. A couple of days later, my mom sat me down for a heart-to-heart. She apologized for yelling at me and said she was just frustrated because she had warned me about my sister's behavior for years. She told me a story from when my sister and I were kids. Apparently, my sister would always make me do her chores by promising to play with me later, but she never followed through. My mom said this was a pattern throughout our childhood, and she wished she had put a stop to it sooner. This conversation really opened my eyes. I realized that my sister had been taking advantage of me for years, and I had let her. It was a tough pill to swallow, but it also gave me the strength to stand my ground. The next day, my sister showed up at the house with her kids in tow. She said she needed me to watch them while she went to a job interview. I took a deep breath and told her no. I said I had my own responsibilities and couldn't drop everything to help her anymore. She got angry and started yelling, but I stayed calm and firm. Eventually, she stormed out, saying she would never ask me for anything again. I thought that would be the end of it, but a few days later, I got a call from my sister's ex-husband. He said my sister had dropped the kids off at his place and disappeared. He was worried because she had never done anything like this before. I rushed over to his house to help, and we tried calling my sister, but she wouldn't answer. Hours turned into days, and there was still no sign of my sister. We filed a missing persons report, but the police said there wasn't much they could do. I was worried sick, but I tried to stay strong for my niece and nephew. They were confused and scared, and I did my best to comfort them. Finally, after almost a week, my sister showed up at my mom's house. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in days. She broke down crying and said she couldn't do it anymore. She said she was sorry for everything and that she needed help. My mom and I just held her as she cried. It turns out my sister had been struggling with depression and anxiety for years, but she had been too proud to ask for help. The pressure of being a single mom and trying to provide for her kids had finally gotten to her. She said she felt like a failure and didn't know what to do. We convinced my sister to go to therapy and get the help she needed. It's been a tough road, but she's slowly getting better. She started taking responsibility for her actions and is working on being a better mom to her kids. As for me, I'm still focusing on my nursing course and my future. I love my sister and my niece and nephew, but I know I can't put my life on hold for them anymore. It's not easy, but I'm learning to set boundaries and take care of myself. So that's where things stand now. It's been a crazy week, but I feel like I've grown a lot as a person. I'm grateful for my mom's support and for the wake-up call I needed to start putting myself first. I know there will be more challenges ahead, but I feel better equipped to handle them now. Thanks again for all your support and advice. It really means the world to me. Ada for kicking out my husband and his daughter to protect my son. Been with my husband for 8 years. He has a 13-year-old daughter, SD. I have a 14-year-old son, a 9-year-old son, and my husband and I have a 5-month-old daughter together. Prior to me giving birth, life was pretty smooth sailing. We did family trips often, had Sunday family night, designated one-on-one time with each of the kids, except my oldest, who has determined he's too cool for us LOL, but if he wanted, it was always available. There were a few fights between the kids, but nothing major, and it was usually resolved within minutes. Since I had the baby, everything has gone downhill. My home has become a war zone between my youngest son and my stepdaughter. They are physically fighting each other constantly, 90% of the time with my stepdaughter instigating. She knows my son has ASD and ADHD and doesn't like being touched. So she will go up to him and poke him continuously even after being told to stop, and then calls him psycho when he flips out. He can sometimes have a bit of a violent rage, which doctors say is common with ADHD, but it's literally on purpose. She purposely provokes him to a point where my husband and I have told her at least 8 times that she is to stay away from him entirely for the rest of the day. Well, I've noticed lately that my youngest son has been getting incredibly emotional lately. When I try to get him to talk about it, he screams at me. It's been a huge thing, and I've been over the top stressed out. He is in therapy, behavioral, OT, and regular therapy. SD is also in therapy. Well, his behavioral therapist opened up to me about 2 weeks back, saying that she was concerned about my son and asked specifically about how much influence my SD has over my son. She said a lot of stuff had been said in therapy. I won't go into extreme detail, but it was enough to warrant a conversation with my husband, and him cracking down on what his daughter was saying to my son. He eventually ended up grounding her for that and something else, and it just made it worse. Well, this morning around 6 a.m., school vacation, my son just starts flipping out over nothing. I tried talking to him and he told me, "Shut up, you never even loved me anyways." I asked him what he was talking about and he just screamed at me to shut up again. My SD, who was at the table eating cereal, says, "Get used to it. Like I told you, nobody loves middle kids. You should just move out now." He storms off to his room. I asked her if she was the reason why he was acting like this morning, and she said, "No, you are. I didn't make him a middle kid. All I did was explain to him that he will never be loved again, but I didn't make that happen. You did." She is also a middle child in both households, so she talks about middle child syndrome often. My husband walked in and told his daughter to go to her room and took her phone yet again. He went to talk to me and apologize, but I just kind of cut him off and said, "I actually can't do this anymore. Your daughter is destroying my son's life and making him think that I hate him, and I am starting to hate that kid to a point where I can't be near her. So I'm going to leave. I would like you and your kid out of my home within 2 months. I own the property and have for 15 years. He's trying to argue that this can be fixed, but it's really come to a point where I hate his child and don't want her near me or my son at all. She's great with the baby. He says he can't believe I'm throwing us away over something that can be fixed." Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I mean this in the nicest way possible. It really sounds like you are struggling with a difficult situation that is causing problems from all directions. I see several people here, including yourself, of course, that need help and attention. I think I'm going to withhold judgment because there's so much going on here. That said, I think you're doing the best that you can given these remarkably difficult circumstances. Best wishes and good luck to everyone in your life. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I feel so bad for your son. Take a day off and spend the day showing how much you love him. Your stepdaughter sounds like a pain. I hope you get through this. Also, I'm a couple years older than your stepdaughter, and I'd like to say that the best way to deal with teenagers is to make them really realize what they're doing. Do what she's doing to your son to her. She'll quickly find out how annoying it is. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last post and a lot has happened. First off, I want to thank you all for your support and advice during this difficult time. Since my last update, things have only gotten worse between my youngest son and stepdaughter. The constant fighting and provocation from my stepdaughter have taken a toll on my son's mental health. He's become increasingly emotional and distant, often lashing out at me and saying hurtful things like, "You never even loved me anyways." It broke my heart to hear those words from my own child. But what really pushed me over the edge was when I found out that my stepdaughter had been telling him that he would never be loved again because he's a middle child. She even had the audacity to say to me, "I didn't make him a middle kid. All I did was explain to him that he will never be loved again, but I didn't make that happen. You did." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could a 13-year-old girl be so cruel and manipulative towards her own stepbrother? It was at that moment that I realized I couldn't continue living like this anymore. The constant stress and negativity were taking a toll on my own mental health, and I knew I had to make a change for the sake of my children. So I made the difficult decision to ask my husband and his daughter to move out of my home within 2 months. It wasn't an easy choice, but I felt like it was the only way to protect my son and give him the peace and stability he needs to heal from the trauma he's experienced. My husband tried to argue that we could fix things, but I knew in my heart that it was too late. The damage had already been done, and I couldn't bear the thought of subjecting my son to any more abuse from his stepsister. Looking back, I realized that I made a mistake by not addressing the issues between my son and stepdaughter sooner. I had hoped that therapy would help them work through their differences, but I now see that it wasn't enough. I should have been more proactive in setting boundaries and protecting my son from the start. It's been a few days since I asked my husband and stepdaughter to leave, and while it's been difficult, I know it was the right decision. My son has already started to show signs of improvement, and I'm hopeful that with time and continued therapy, he'll be able to heal from the trauma he's experienced. As for my relationship with my husband, I'm not sure what the future holds. I still love him, but I can't ignore the fact that his daughter's behavior has caused irreparable damage to our family. We'll have to take things one day at a time and see where we end up. In the meantime, I'm focusing on my children and doing everything I can to create a safe and loving home for them. It's not going to be easy, but I know that with the support of my family and friends, we'll get through this together. Thank you all again for your support and understanding during this difficult time. It means more to me than you'll ever know. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!